Good evening, Blood Bowl fans. Welcome to Blood Stadium, home of the Wisconsin Vamps. I'm your host, Ben, and with me is Dylan.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here as always. This week, the Wisconsin Vamps are going to be going up against the Naggarond's Chosen, Reaper's team, our co-host from the last game. Now, right now, both teams are going into this having lost their previous games. However, Naggarond's Chosen played Timmy Tucker's, a team which has retired from the league, and as such, they are being posthumously rewarded a win instead. So, for playoff purposes, we'll be calculating that ourselves and adjusting the rewards.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate. Played one game and unceremoniously bowed out.
Did you press it?
Oh, yeah, just a second after.
That's not too bad.
All right. Well, we're looking at some interesting stuff here. And who's winning the toss?
Wait, did you not watch the toss yet?
No, I just saw the toss. What are you seeing right now?
All right, Naggarond's Chosen looks like they're finalizing their setup now. Really trying to find the perfect way to adjust to try and take advantage of their increased armor value, leaving a few players more exposed on the front line. Wisconsin Vamps just starting to set their team up now.
It's always unfortunate to see teams on the squishier side have to oblige by the 3-player on the front line rule. But it's pretty smart of him to be lining them off so that each person on the front line's got some backup. Very least it'll be less likely that they get fucked over.
It is making it far less likely that the Wisconsin Vamps will follow up after their attacks, because that will leave them exposed to the Naggarond's Chosen after moving in. However, right now, Dracula making the first play on the Mortran, getting a knockdown, and he is going to follow up. His strength advantage is going to make it a little easier for him to contest the center.
Wait, where are you right now?
Dale just hit Umfin, and Dracula is making a pickup on the ball.
Oh, I am behind you. A bit of technical difficulties.
Alright, I'm going to pause, and you tell me the Oh, it looks like we have our first armor break of the game, and Cadlil is going to be stunned. Blitz is starting, and I play. And there's the roll coming out from Jimmy onto Hellil, and he is going to get the knockdown. That is another armor break going against Naggarond's Chosen. A stun once more. So no players being taken off the pitch yet, but this is going to make it difficult for the Naggarond's Chosen to contest the opening drive.
They're going to want to play this real carefully. If they're moving quickly, they may be able to slip past any defense, and that's the real advantage of Dark Elves. As somebody who's seen them on the pitch quite a few times, clustering up against them really isn't the way to do it. You gotta find a way to slip against their defenses.
Unfortunately, it looks like the Naggarond's Chosen going to be forced to use their first of their only two team rerolls. And there's going to be a turnover just 2 moves into their turn.
Oof.
This is going to be very, very bad for them, given that the Vamps, much like the Dark Elves, have enough speed to take advantage of a couple of knockdowns. So, with a few of these tackle zones out of the way, they may look to press forward quickly. And now it seems Dracula moving up into a more advantageous position. Not a ton of places for him to go from here, but they are setting up a somewhat of a cage formation.
If Naggarond's is going to want to do anything right now, it's as soon as they get their turn going, the half of their team that's currently laying on the field, make that 6 members now, is going to want to get up immediately. If they can form around the guys that they have on the ground and set up some form of defensive barrier, they can at least slow them down. And Banis is down! Oof.
Unfortunately, we have the first KO of the game, and that is going to take 1 off the pitch for the Naggarond's Chosen. Very impactful play, given that Banis, one of the few leveled up players coming out this week, his pro skill extremely important to the Naggarond's Chosen, who has very limited rerolls to pull from.
Well, he's going to want to nail that 50% coin flip at halftime, or, you know, the next time they score. In any case, it's good to see a lot of the players back on their feet. Looks like the left side of the field's starting to form up.
Yes, the left side of the pitch seems to be where the Vamps want to go with this one. And Naggarond's Chosen not having many options other than to just move into position and try and slow this one down.
At the very least, it seems like the Vamps are smart enough to know not to try and duck and weave in between these elves. That never seems to work out. They're really quick. He just seems...
At this point, the best option that is available to the Vamps would be to try and get a few of those players out of the way. There's one of their 5 rerolls coming out for the Wisconsin Vamps. A lot of rerolls coming out for this team. Seems they chose a large number of thralls and rerolls over having more impactful units. The Bloodlust roll, though, going to fail for Dracula. He's only going to get a knockdown onto Bath Lane, and not ending his turn adjacent to a thrall. He is going to head off the pitch for a drink.
Huh. That's always an interesting skill to see in action.
So, for any who are unfamiliar with the Bloodlust skill, on a fail of... the vampire must roll before his movement, and on a 2-up, he proceeds as normal. However, if he rolls a 1, he must end his turn next to a thrall player who he then knocks prone and makes an injury roll against as he drinks their blood.
There's another KO.
I'm not sure. That is a KO coming out against Tucker, and this now the numbers starting to go in favor of the Naggarond's Chosen.
They definitely formed up quick.
Yes, the Naggarond's Chosen, having lost 1 player to a KO earlier this game, likely very happy to see that 2 of the enemy players hitting the bench, especially one of the vampires, some of the more impactful players.
Oh!
And that is a very risky dodge that is not going to come through.
It always...
And now the ball carrier is exposed.
It always sucks when a reroll ends up with the same negative result.
Yes, unfortunately on a 5-up, the odds of succeeding were low to begin with, and now Dale is going to be KO'd as well.
Man, these are coming out quick. We're only a quarter of the way through the game, and we've already got several knockouts, but then that's what happens when you've got 2 squishy teams. Really, this is just a matter of who can knock down more players faster. Oh, excellent use of the reroll. Not coming off quite as he had planned there, but at the very least he's moving closer to the ball carrier. I wouldn't call him exposed, but he's definitely further open if they can capitalize on the somewhat fragmented positioning.
Yes, and now a lot of the assists that the Thralls would be getting for their blocks are being taken away by the Naggarond's Chosen as they move in.
Yep, seems like number 11 back there is the only one who's able to give any form of help. And one quick move, yep, Morspin's wide open to get rid of that assist.
Yes, unfortunately, Jimmy, being the only one not in multiple tackle zones, while it does have its advantages
there it is.
In terms of being able to position, it would take a blitz, but now he is being locked down by Mortran. And the Naggarond's Chosen quickly surrounding the Wisconsin Vamps team, not in the most advantageous position, but it is going to turn out in their favor as the lack of assists coming in from the other Wisconsin Vamps players is going to result in a turnover.
Not to mention having that many players close to the ball carrier is going to make it really difficult to throw it. Up, and Jimmy is down.
And Jimmy now KO'd.
Oof.
The Wisconsin Vamps have now lost, I believe, 4 players this game.
You know,
or for this drive.
When I first saw the roster lists, I thought, only 11 elves? That's not going to work out very well for him, but considering that the Naggarond's Chosen have managed to get a ton of knockouts, having just 1 or 2 people on the sidelines really isn't... Oh my goodness.
Ooh, that is going to be a kill onto SpongeBob, but I believe the regeneration roll going to come through, given the camera angle did not change. It only would have the death stick. But that, regardless, is going to take the second vampire off of the Wisconsin Vamps pitch.
Well, and it seems as though now the Wisconsin Vamps and Naggarond's Chosen are right there. Naggarond's fighting tooth and nail to get the ball. Oh, clean pickup.
Yeah, that is going to be a very good pickup for the Naggarond's Chosen. With that much coverage on the ball, it would normally be a great risk, But that 4 agility really coming in clutch for the Naggarond's Chosen.
I'm liking where this is going.
As they're going to start pushing the Vamps back. And this is going to put the Naggarond's Chosen
Ooh, that's a sharp
in scoring position very late into the first half. David King going to be stunned now.
There's the turnover.
And
Beth Lane
there's the turnover
well.
coming on the back. Beth Lane will be stunned, but being so far from the ball, there likely would have been very little impact.
Man.
Now, both of these teams have high enough speed that they could definitely score quickly, but given that they're going kind of, well, inch for inch on each other, it looks like the Naggarond's Chosen scoring a late goal is going to be their greatest asset, likely preventing the Vamps from scoring, from having the chance to score with the kickoff they'll receive this half, and then Naggarond's Chosen are going to be receiving the kickoff going into the second half.
And there's the turnover.
But here we see a turnover from the Naggarond's Chosen. Probably should have gone for a couple more assists there. The Vamps now in a decent position to get up there and knock the lineman down. But they're also going to move with no assists, rolling on 1 die.
And there it is.
And only going to get the push.
I'm not liking this.
And the 4 agility from the Naggarond's Chosen lineman really going to come into play
This
here.
is embarrassing. The Vamps are on their own home field, and there they are, just a few feet away from the end zone. Oh, and there's the turnover.
Yeah, that's going to be a trip, and down goes Wee!
Given the fact that the Elves typically run an 83%, there it is, and into the end zone. There we go. Point number 1, Naggarond's Chosen. Excellent.
That is going to be a touchdown scored by Kurthel of the Naggarond's Chosen.
Well, this game is far from over, I've got to say. Just 1 or 2 turns can get 1 or 2 more knockouts out, and oop, one of them's up. One of the Vamps is up.
Alright, so that is going to give the Vamps an extra chance this
half.
For this half, but given their very, I believe there's only 1 turn left. Yeah, with only 1 turn left, their team does not have the movement to get in. The only way that, I could have foreseen them possibly scoring here is should they get an extra move.
The ball is down.
However, instead, it's going to be a perfect defense for Naggarond's Chosen. They're going to get a second setup to try and close up any of the holes they might have in their line.
Oof.
But regardless,
Sheesh.
I'm not seeing anything coming out in the favor of
This turn is...
Wisconsin Vamps this
Yeah,
half.
this turn is basically a formality. But it does give both sides a chance to get at least 1 extra roll in for getting their knockout back up and running. And we don't have any injuries. And the only death that we saw got regen, so overall, nothing super lasting for the season has happened so far.
True, however, these 2 turns could be where the injuries start to come in. Likely both coaches looking to get those injuries now to try and get an advantage going into the second half and generate a little bit of star power for later in the season.
If it were me on Naggarond's Chosen side, I would try and cluster up a bunch of my elves, get a whole bunch of strength bonuses in, and ooh, there's the turnover. Well, overall, not a bad last turn for either side. This half's closed out. Naggarond's leading with a 1-point advantage. I'm not going to say it's impossible for the Vamps to come back, but they'd have to do a lot to make it further than a draw.
Did you hit skip on one of the things? Because you're ahead of me by quite a bit.
Oh, shit. I'm at the teams coming back in.
The teams going into the... in for the half is where I'm at.
Oh, okay. Here, I'm waiting.
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of thing will not be happening next week. We will be covering games live from that point on.
Yeah, we're watching on 2 separate Cabal Vision orbs.
Yeah, so make sure you pause as soon as you can. Let me know where you are.
2 units have been moved at the start of the second half. Let me know when that happens.
Alright, sure thing. Alright, so now Vamps are going to be kicking off to the Naggarond. This is the other great benefit that the Naggaronds had for scoring on the other team's half. So it's going to be very difficult for the Vamps to tie this one up. They're going to have to mount a very strong defense and get hold of the ball quickly if they're going to have any chance of fighting back against the Naggarond's Chosen. And here comes the kick. A perfect defense for the Wisconsin Vamps. So they're going to get to set up and try and put themselves in a position that will get them to the ball as quickly as possible. Hopefully they got a nice short kickoff this one. And it is going to drop only 3 spaces into the Naggarond chosen line.
Yep, I'm where you are.
Ball has not dropped yet.
Yeah, it hasn't dropped, but I can see it. And it just fell for me.
It just landed. So I think we're on.
Yep.
All right, we're all even up. Okay. And looks like we're going to have an early recovery and a successful, almost successful. That's going to have to be a roll from the Naggarond's chosen. Very unfortunate to have to make a roll like that on a 2-up. But that is going to generate another star power for Kurthel, who scored the touchdown for the first half. So he's up to 4 for this game, putting him in a very good position to level up within the next week or 2.
I don't know if I would call the Wisconsin Vamps defense the best. It certainly covers the most ground, but I would have left a few gaps in between, put a few people behind, and get some strength bonuses going on there. Pretty much everybody's tackle zones are occupied, so it's 1 for 1.
Well, that being said, the tackle zones are only prevented if the player who is attempting to assist is covered by another tackle zone. So there are going to be a lot of, as we're seeing now, a lot of 2-die rolls coming in from the Wisconsin Vamps. The Naggarond's chosen are the ones really having trouble at the front line.
Oh yeah, there's one
of
the
course,
3 rolls.
The way that they're set up, one of many. Thankfully, the Vamps have plenty to spare, but they may want to consider investing a little bit more into players as opposed to into the rerolls, because the rerolls, while being helpful, usually better off than not being necessary in the first place.
Yeah, it's not going to save them if they've got an injury. If anything, I would take some money out of rerolls and throw a few more into Apothecary, save you from having a permanent injury on a player.
Well, I believe the Vamps have a Necromantic instead, but now we're going to get a Bloodlust bite coming in from the Vamps. Wee is going to be KO'd by Dracula. Jesus. And once again, Wee not going to be getting any star power for this week either. Still sitting in a rookie position. Not very advantageous for the remainder of the season, but fortunately Dracula staying on the field, already being level 2. They're likely going to be trying to get him up to level 3 a little bit later in the season.
Having a big vampire on the field is never good for the enemy.
The Naggarond's chosen moving towards the right side of the pitch, where there is a much lower Wisconsin Vamps presence. And now it looks like we have movement and a handoff.
And there it is.
That's going to be a pass right over to Tellen. Tellen with nothing in his way. He is going to very easily make it downfield. And looking at the movement rating for the Thralls, I'm not sure they can even make it with going for it. But there's going to be the first... that's going to be the second reroll of the half already from Naggarond's chosen. They are fresh out.
Man, Naggarond's chosen doing their absolute best. These throws are incredible, and that's really the strong suit of the Elves. And that block saving from a turnover and knocking into a stun. Oof.
And there goes SpongeBob. And here we go. The Thralls trying to make it back, and he's going to have to make going for it rolls to get in position. He could have made, had he done his positioning a little differently, he could have gone for a block with 1 die. And he did have enough rerolls that may have been the better option to go for. But now Elnir deep in the enemy lines with the ball and no one to assist him. So hopefully he will make the 5-up roll to get back to get past.
Drac is moving in, hopefully trying to provide a bonus, but he's not quite there.
Not going to provide another tackle zone, unfortunately, and there comes the reroll, but both going to get the same result, and down goes Dale. That's a turnover for the Vamps, and Naggarond's chosen have only to move and dodge
and there it
to get
is.
the score, and they are going to get it. That is going to be another touchdown coming in from the Naggarond's chosen early in the second half. This game is all but over for the Vamps, who have gone scoreless so far this season. But hopefully they'll be able to pull something out in the last bit to at least close the gap. Get themselves a little bit more star power before the game ends.
Oh,
they will get both their players back.
Up and running. Well, this is good. So they got a full pitch again.
And 1 reserve.
Currently an 11 versus 10 fight. By the way, gotta say, gutsy move of Naggarond's Chosen to have such fragile players and no one in the reserves. That is impressive that they've managed to pull this out.
Well, they do have some of the more fragile linemen of the league at 7 armor. Definitely not the most fragile players. Both teams getting an extra reroll this half. So that is going to be very beneficial. Unfortunately, not coming out the kick before this one, but that would have benefited the Naggarond's Chosen and only placed the difference farther. And now we're going to have a touchback. And the ball being tossed right up to Potap Jason right at the front lines.
Damn, gutsy.
The Vamps are not messing around. They want to go for this fast. And Elnir is dead.
My goodness, that is
going to
a
be
mortality blow.
I believe that is the first permanent death of the season. And with only 11 elves on the team, that is going to be incredibly detrimental to Naggarond's Chosen. They're going to have to hire another player before their next game, and that's going to be, I believe, a 70K investment just to replace a lineman, and I think they just lost a blitzer.
Ugh. Jeez, this is a
grim last yeah, Elnir is a blitzer. That's going to be, I believe, 100K or so investment.
Oh my goodness. Well,
that or they're going to have to stick with another lineman.
Gotta give it to them. The Wisconsin Vamps, they certainly made their mark on Naggarond's Chosen. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a grudge match down the line for vengeance sake. If we see these guys in the playoffs, it could be one hell of a fight.
Right. Unfortunately, the playoff odds for the Wisconsin Vamps not looking all too good, as this game likely ending in a defeat unless they can pull out some miraculous plays will sit them at 0-2.
No one's denying that.
Tying them with only Gurney, who lost their match earlier this week.
Well, never say never. For all we know, they could just be having a rough early season. Their next game could be a big turnaround for them, but Naggarond's Chosen seem to have all but won this game, and these last few turns could be nothing more than a formality for them, and for the Vamps, a chance to get some more star power, or a few more injuries, and possibly another one joining the 6 feet below gang.
Right, and now the knockdown going to land on Dracula. Hopefully no armor break there, and he will not have his armor broken, fortunately.
I'm liking the
so he's going to be able to come and provide some assistance. They are grouping up fairly well. However, they're not covering all of their angles, and it would be fairly easy for the Naggarond's Chosen to make a little blitz around on the edge of the pitch along the right side, as that half of the ball carrier so far uncovered.
If I were putting up this many people this close to the sidelines, I'd be adjacent to the last square on the side. This way, in case anyone tried to do that, they'd run the risk of getting knocked into the crowd and thrown off the pitch. Those fans do not look happy.
Right, especially being in the Wisconsin Vamp Stadium, seeing a 0-2 from their home team, likely greatly upsetting everyone who came out here to support their home team.
Yeah.
And now the Naggarond's Chosen at the opposite end of the pitch being taken off the field, freeing up some more of the Vamps to make their way across and try to cover for their ball carrier. The defense set up by the offensive box set up by the Vamps, while not the most advantageous.
Certainly proving to be somewhat efficient. If nothing else, it's preventing them from getting very far on the more heavily blocked side. And
unfortunately, while David King going to be injured for the Wisconsin Vamps, smashing his hand, he will be out next game for his match against the followers of Sylvanas.
That is unfortunate. Looks like they no longer have team members in the reserve on the Vamps, so I don't know if they're going to invest in getting somebody just in case, but geesh, that is not a good thing for them.
Right, well, actually, there is one player, Tucker, currently sitting over on the sidelines, so if we do see another drive this half, he will get out onto the field, but that does mean that there is a player for them to pull in next game. And now it looks like the Vamps are making their way forward, trying to go headlong, and that is an incredibly gutsy pass, and it is going to get there. Unfortunately, Bodan Zajac, having moved, is not going to be able to take advantage of it this turn, and instead Dracula making his way over to cover, likely expecting a knockdown that he can capitalize on to pick the ball up. And Wee is going to make an attempt to get Hell Hill, but the block skill going to come in clutch, and that's going to be a knockdown. So we have a turnover for the Naggarond's Chosen, who will be spending this turn shutting down this drive.
Oh, the reroll getting the defender to
reroll comes out, and that is going to get a knockdown onto Bodan. Hopefully the ball does not pop into the hands of Dracula, but Naggarond's Chosen have the ball, and they are going to get out of that tackle zone. And now they can set up their own cage, stall for time, and settle this with a 2-0 victory. But with the speed of the Elves, I expect them to either go for a goal or move the ball as far downfield as possible so the Vamps have no possibility of scoring.
This could very well be a 3-0 game. Oh, and there's a turnover.
And there's going to be another double knockdown with a turnover. One Naggarond's Chosen player not stood up on the other side of the field. The Vamps do have a chance to make their move on this ball.
Oh, and there it is.
And there's going to be the knockdown onto Hell Hill. The ball is loose again.
It seems like the way things are going, these last few turns could just be the two teams swabbling over the ball. Positioning doesn't seem to favor either one at this point. Too many Wisconsin
No, not
Vamps.
at all. And there's going to be a reroll on a 4-up attempt to pick up. And he is going to get it, making a pass that is not going to be successful.
Did not come off. And there's the turnover. Seems like
with that, there's only 2 turns left for the Vamps. So as long as Naggarond's Chosen takes out a player close to the ball, gets the pickup, it looks like this is going to be game.
Up and didn't come off on that
There is
pickup.
a dropped pickup,
but
it is
right
going to be
into
caught.
Allies' hands.
So Mortran now in possession of the ball next to 2 downed, one downed vampire.
Seems like both coaches are thinking a little less through in terms of some of their extra units, but then again, given where we are in the game,
Vamps
the
using their
outcome's
last reroll.
all but decided, so I guess they can afford to be a bit less on the thinking side and just go for the gold. Drac trying to get
at this
the ball
point, the
out
only
of
thing
area.
going to change the game is going to be Hail Mary plays. And the Vamps not getting a hold of the ball on turn 15. So, unless they manage to get a hold of the ball very, very quickly, odds are things are not going to go well. Vamps going to have to move Bodan Zajac into scoring position this turn, but he's not moved. That is a drastic, fatal misplay for the Wisconsin Vamps. They needed him in scoring position to have any chance of getting off a Hail Mary pass. But now, nope. Willie Tilley, the only player in position, but Mortran going to get a successful pass to get the ball well out of harm's way, and the Vamps are not going to be able to get over to that in time. So now we're down to the final blocks of the game as both coaches trying to get their players to level and get a few injuries in.
Huh. I didn't even notice this, but SpongeBob, one of the 2 vampires, is all the way back in the Wisconsin Vamps backfield.
Oh, so he is. He hasn't participated in this drive at all.
Damn.
He may have been held back to try and keep the Naggarond's Chosen from scoring, but with the way that this game is going, he could have been incredibly useful on the front lines and perhaps resulted in a touchdown for the Vamps with a little bit more work.
I would have placed one of the linemen.
Now, Jimmy's going to take down Kurthel on the ball carrier. Now, Potap Jensen has control of the ball, but he does not pass it. And looks like the coach lost track of the turn counter. And that is going to be the final of the game. There is the knockdown. We hitting the ground. And that is going to be game in favor of Naggarond's Chosen. Our MVPs being Radar from the Naggarond's Chosen and Jimmy on the Thrall.
I gotta say, good for Naggarond's Chosen. They managed to pull out a solid 2-0 game. And as their second one, definitely recovering from their first loss, which I believe counts as a victory now. Overall,
it does now count as a victory.
Overall,
it will be listed on the official in-game leaderboards as a loss. However, when we consider teams for the final playoffs, we will be looking at where Naggarond's Chosen would sit if they had a victory instead.
Not looking good for the Wisconsin Vamps this season, but then again, as I said before, it could just be a rough start. Hopefully they can pull it out in the next game, but looking good for Naggarond's Chosen. 2 solid wins this season. Only 1 or 2 more away from making playoffs, and if they can play a bit more by throwing the ball around to disorient the enemy even more, they definitely got the evasion and positioning to at least hold their own against any team.
Indeed, and looking at the star power points awarded, Naggarond's Chosen picking up a hefty number of points. Although, given their loss the previous game, I don't believe these players had a lot of points to begin with. So it's looking like they're setting up to try and get those level ups going into Game 4. I believe they'll be playing you next week, actually, Dylan, your Blood Claws team.
Yep, I'm envious of both of these teams. As expensive as their units are, at the very least, it's pretty easy for them to get some ball play going. My guys just have to trudge along the field most of the time, but I wouldn't want them to get into a fight with units like mine, to say the least. For their sake.
Indeed, they're going to have to play around all of the big teams, as opposed to this game that Naggarond's chosen. We're able to make a lot of face-first plays and do a lot of blocking that they likely won't get to do for the rest of the season, given that the Thralls have lower armor value than the Naggarond's chosen. This definitely gave them the advantage in terms of landing injuries.
I'll say this. For Wisconsin Vamps, there were definitely a few plays that could have come off a lot better. Some of them, the RNG screwed them over there, but one or two things, if they just harnessed a few more of their players and kept track of the turn order a bit better, they could have had at least one touchdown in that game and made it a bit less of a one-sided fight. But,
yeah, I believe they did have a chance in the second half, had SpongeBob moved up to assist.
All in all, though, as long as Naggarond's chosen keeps up the ball play like they did today, keeps passing, hell, does even more so, plenty of star power points, I could see this team definitely accumulating a lot as the season goes on. And,
Indeed.
As long as they don't get into too many straight-up scuffles that they know they can't win, I think these guys have the potential to make it to at least the playoffs.
Right, and I did speak with the Naggarond's, with Reaper, the Naggarond's chosen coach, earlier this week, and he showed great interest in giving dodge to all of his Dark Elves that are holding block currently. So he's looking to get blodge onto all of his blitzers, and that is going to make them a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, geez, elves are hard enough to get around. But let me tell you something. Fighting them, if they get dodge on them, that's going to be even harder to knock them down, because if you can't get rid of that roster, particularly with a team as slow as mine, then they're going to walk all around you.
Right, now it looks like the biggest threat to them this season is going to be the Skaven team, who, having seen their gameplay, the coach for the Skaven team has a very good understanding of the way that they play. But that is going to be the end of the broadcast for this week, so we are going to end it here. Looking forward to the match next week. Expecting to cover Gurney versus Gnawhole Nibblers, but should things fall through on that, then we'll likely be covering I believe the Naggarond's chosen game against Blood Claws. So we will see how it goes.
I look forward to seeing you guys on that one. I'll say this though, if there's one game I look forward to this season, it's Naggarond's chosen versus Gnawhole Nibblers. Two small, fast, somewhat squishy teams going against each other. Man, field's gonna be electric that day.
Indeed. I think the Chosen may have the advantage in terms of brawling that day, but it's going to depend on how the Gnawhole Nibblers play around their stuff.
I think the Nibblers are a bit faster than Elves, but at the same time, you can't throw balls that well when you've got those little claw hands, so it's really going to be a matter of who can run with the ball faster as opposed to who can throw it better. So, I get a front seat for that one.
The Elves will be taking advantage of their incredibly good pass rate, having 3 successful pass rolls this game. Unfortunately, as far as catches go, failing one of them. However, 1 in 6, very good for the Elves. One thing we neglected to mention: the Wisconsin Vamps lost their entire team their first game against Dwarf. Dwarf KO'd or injured the entire Wisconsin Vamps lineup.
Must not have been.
Leading to a low armor value on Mohovil, likely resulting in some of the stuns and some of the stuns that were hit on him this game. Although I believe he managed to avoid those.
Textbook stuff when he.
Well, rest in peace to the Naggarond Blitzer.
Rest in peace indeed. But hey, these are 2 squishy teams. But if they can harness their speed and ball play pretty well, I can definitely see these guys really turning things around. I can see Naggarond's chosen going far. Hopefully we get to see the Wisconsin Vamps get a few wins in, and who knows, maybe they can make it to the playoffs. There's still a lot of Blood Bowl to play today, Ben.
Indeed. We're going to call the broadcast here for the day, so thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week for the next Blood Bowl game.